The mockery of the assembly hall falls silent. The crystalline dome of the galactic assembly stretched high above, catching the light of 3 suns and scattering it into rainbow patterns across the polished floor. Ambassador Elena Torres stood in the human delegation circle, her gray uniform a stark contrast to the colorful robes and natural forms of the hundreds of alien species surrounding her. She had known this day would come, but knowing did not make it easier to bear. Chancellor Varen Thal of the Etheron Collective raised his 4 arms in a gesture of authority. His pale blue skin shimmered with bioluminescence as he spoke, his voice amplified through translation devices that made it echo through the massive chamber. The motion before this assembly is clear. We vote today on Resolution 794, the permanent suspension of human participation in all galactic peacekeeping operations. Elena felt her deputy, Marcus Chun, tense beside her. She touched his arm gently, signaling him to remain calm. They had prepared for this moment during the long journey to the assembly world. Earth's military advisors had warned them that the political winds had shifted against humanity. The Etheron Chancellor continued, his voice taking on a tone of righteous conviction. For 3 standard years, humanity has served alongside our forces. In that time, they have demonstrated tactics and methods that are fundamentally incompatible with the principles of civilized conflict resolution. The chamber erupted in agreement. Clicking sounds came from the insectoid creche delegates. The crystalline luminar representatives chimed in harmony. Even the usually reserved Torvan observers, massive beings resembling upright bears with silver fur, growled their approval. The accusations begin. A creche ambassador stood, her mandibles clicking rapidly as she spoke. During the Kelter Station incident, human forces used explosive devices that destroyed 3 entire habitat rings. Yes, they saved the hostages, but at what cost? The infrastructure damage took months to repair. Elena remembered Kelter Station well. She had read the reports a dozen times. 50,000 civilians held hostage by the Crimson Raiders, a ruthless pirate organization. The alien peacekeepers had spent weeks negotiating, following every protocol, offering concessions. The raiders had executed 100 hostages while the negotiations continued. When human Marine Captain Sarah Rodriguez had finally been given authorization to act, she had ended the crisis in 47 minutes. All remaining hostages saved, all raiders neutralized, but the creche ambassador was right about one thing. 3 habitat rings had been destroyed in the assault. The human forces had prioritized speed and certainty over preservation of property. In their calculation, 50,000 lives mattered more than metal and circuits that could be rebuilt. A luminar delegate rose next, their crystalline body refracting light in patterns that expressed deep concern. We have evolved beyond the need for such brutality. Our weapons are precise. Our methods preserve life on all sides. We negotiate. We find peaceful solutions. We do not simply destroy everything in our path like humans do. More voices joined in. A Torvan military commander stood, his silver fur bristling with indignation. At the Battle of Frontier's Edge, human forces deliberately targeted enemy supply lines, causing widespread starvation among enemy combatants. This is not warfare. This is barbarism. Marcus leaned close to Elena and whispered, they are talking about the Marauder fleet. We cut their supply lines to force a surrender. It worked. The alternative was a frontal assault that would have cost thousands of lives on both sides. Elena nodded, but said nothing. She understood the pattern now. Every human tactical decision that had deviated from the aliens' preferred methods was being cataloged and condemned. The aliens fought wars like elaborate games, with rules both sides agreed to follow. Humans fought wars to win, to end the threat, to protect the innocent by whatever means proved most effective. The Vote Chancellor Varen Thal called for order. Though his expression showed he was pleased with the passionate responses. "Before we vote, does the human delegation wish to speak?" Elena stood slowly. The chamber fell silent, hundreds of alien eyes and sensory organs focusing on her. She was one human among thousands of aliens, representing a species that had joined the galactic community only 5 years ago. Earth was still the newest member, still learning the complex web of protocols and traditions that governed interstellar society. "Honored delegates," Elena began, her voice steady and clear. "Humanity has served with honor alongside your forces. We have fought your enemies. We have protected your colonies. We have shed our blood for worlds that are not our own." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You call our methods brutal. You call them barbaric. You say we do not understand civilized warfare. That is correct," a voice called out from the crush section. "You do not understand, perhaps," Elena replied. "But I ask you to consider why our methods differ from yours. Is it because we are primitive? Or is it because we have faced different enemies?" The Chancellor's bioluminescence flickered with confusion. "What do you mean?" Elena took a breath. "Your species, all of you, evolved in a galaxy where most threats are rational, where enemies can be negotiated with, where conflicts follow patterns that both sides understand. You have built your military doctrines around this reality." She looked around the chamber. "Humanity evolved on a death world. We fought wars against our own kind for millennia. We learned to face enemies who followed no rules, showed no mercy, and could not be reasoned with. Our methods reflect that history." Varenthal's expression hardened. "Are you suggesting that our methods are inferior?" "No," Elena said quietly. "I am suggesting they are untested against certain types of threats. What happens when you face an enemy that does not honor your rules? What happens when negotiation fails, not because of miscommunication, but because the enemy simply does not care about life, including their own?" The chamber was silent for a moment. Then a luminar elder spoke, his voice resonant with certainty. "Such enemies do not exist in our galaxy. Any species advanced enough for space travel has learned the value of life and the principles of rational conflict." Elena wanted to argue further, to warn them, but she could see it was pointless. They had already made up their minds. "Very well," she said. "Humanity will respect your decision. The vote proceeded quickly. Species after species cast their decision on glowing panels. The results displayed on massive screens throughout the chamber. Etheron Collective, in favor of the ban. Kresh Unity, in favor. Luminar Concordance, in favor. Torvan Federation, in favor. One by one, every species voted to remove humanity from galactic peacekeeping. The final count appeared. 942 in favor. 1 opposed. Only Earth voted against the resolution. Celebration. And warning, the chamber erupted in celebration. Delegates embraced, made sounds of joy, and congratulated each other on this victory for civilized values. Some even danced in the aisles, their various forms moving in celebration of what they saw as progress. Chancellor Varenthal raised his arms for silence. The resolution passes by overwhelming majority. Effective immediately, human military forces are banned from all galactic peacekeeping operations. All human military advisors currently serving with alien forces must return to Earth within 60 standard days. All joint training exercises are canceled. All shared tactical databases are to be purged of human contributions. More cheering. A Kresh delegate clicked loudly. "Finally, we can pursue peace without the shadow of human violence." A Luminar chimed in agreement. "Our methods will prove superior. Negotiation, precision, and respect for life will triumph." Elena and Marcus gathered their materials. As they walked toward the exit, passing through the crowds of celebrating aliens, Elena pulled out her communication device. She sent a brief, encrypted message to Earth Command. The message was simple, but its implications were profound. They want us out. Give them what they requested. Complete withdrawal from all joint operations. The reply came within minutes from Admiral James Okonkwo at Earth Defense Headquarters. Understood. All human personnel will withdraw immediately. All shared intelligence will be classified. All advisory roles terminated. We wish them luck. Marcus read the message over Elena's shoulder. Ma'am, what does this mean for the frontier colonies? The ones we were helping protect? Elena looked back at the celebration, still continuing in the assembly hall. It means they are on their own now. They wanted civilized warfare. They are about to learn whether the galaxy agrees with their definition of civilized. As they walked through the crystal corridors toward their ship, Elena noticed the news displays showing updates from across the galaxy. Most were covering the Assembly's decision, praising it as a new era of enlightened peacekeeping. But one small ticker caught her attention. Unusual activity reported in Void Sector 9. Unknown vessels detected. Local forces investigating. Asterisk. She paused, reading the brief report. Marcus noticed her concern. Something wrong? Elena shook her head slowly. Maybe. Or maybe I am seeing threats where none exist. She started walking again. Either way, it is not our concern anymore. But as they boarded their ship for the long journey back to Earth, Elena could not shake the feeling that the galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson. The aliens believed that civilized methods would always prevail. They believed that any threat could be reasoned with, negotiated with, or defeated through precision and minimal force. Elena had studied human history. She knew better. Sometimes the universe sent threats that did not care about civilization, that did not honor rules, that could not be stopped with precision strikes and careful negotiations. Sometimes the universe sent threats that could only be answered with the kind of warfare that looked barbaric to those who had never faced true chaos. The galaxy had just banned the only species that remembered how to fight that kind of war. Elena hoped they would never need that knowledge. But hope was not strategy, and wishful thinking was not defense. As her ship lifted away from the assembly world, she wondered how long it would take before someone realized their mistake. She hoped it would not be too late when they did. Asterisk. The revelation 6 months of silence. The observation deck of the human monitoring station. Sentinel-7 floated in the darkness beyond the galactic trade routes. Commander David Walsh stood at the transparent viewport, watching distant stars flicker like cold diamonds. His crew of 15 maintained their quiet vigil, monitoring communications traffic across the galaxy, even though they were no longer welcome to participate in its defense. Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka looked up from her console, her expression troubled. Commander, you need to hear this. She transferred the audio to the main speakers. The transmission was fragmented, filled with static and the sounds of weapons fire in the background. This is Etheron Defense Fleet, 7th Wing. We are under attack in the Marith system. Enemy forces are not responding to any communication protocols. They are ignoring all ceasefire signals. We have sustained critical losses. Request immediate reinforcement. The transmission cut to static, then resumed. They are not taking prisoners. They are destroying medical ships. They are targeting evacuation craft. This is not warfare. This is slaughter. Please, someone help us. David felt ice form in his stomach. How many distress calls like this have we intercepted? Yuki pulled up a star map covered in red warning indicators. 47 in the last 2 weeks. The pattern is accelerating. The attack started small, single ships going missing in remote sectors. Now entire fleets are being decimated. What are the aliens calling this threat? David asked. Why UK? I switched to translated news feeds from various galactic networks. They call it the Shade Collective. Initial reports described them as a new pirate organization. But the recent attacks suggest something far more organized and far more dangerous. On the main screen, a news broadcast played. A luminar military analyst, her crystalline form glowing with confident light, was being interviewed. "The situation is concerning but manageable," she chimed. "These raiders are using unconventional tactics, but our forces are adapting. We maintain our commitment to civilized rules of engagement. We will not descend to barbarism simply because our enemy lacks honor." David muted the broadcast. "Are they still refusing human assistance?" "Yes, sir," Yuki replied. "The ban remains in effect." Several human advisors offered intelligence analysis on the Shade Collective's tactics. All offers were rejected. The Assembly has made it clear that human input is not welcome. The situation deteriorates over the following weeks. The reports grew worse. David's crew monitored in helpless frustration as the Shade Collective tore through system after system. The alien forces, trained in precision warfare and bound by their rules of engagement, found themselves completely unprepared for an enemy that followed no rules at all. Specialist Hassan compiled the tactical reports. "Commander, I have analyzed the Shade Collective's attack patterns. They are methodical. Each assault tests different defensive strategies. They are learning from every engagement." David studied the analysis. "This is not random piracy. This is systematic warfare. They are probing for weaknesses across the entire galactic defense network." "Exactly," Ahmed confirmed. "And they have found something the aliens cannot counter. The Shade Collective uses kamikaze tactics, sacrifices their own forces to gather intelligence, and targets civilian populations to force military responses. None of this fits the alien understanding of rational warfare. YUK, I interrupted. "Commander, we are receiving an emergency broadcast from the Assembly world. Patch it through." Chancellor Varenthal appeared on screen, his bioluminescence dim with exhaustion and fear. "To all member species of the galactic community, the Shade Collective has launched a coordinated assault on 17 core worlds simultaneously. Our casualties are catastrophic. The Kresh homeworld has been blockaded. The Luminar Sacred System is under siege. The Torvan colonies are being systematically destroyed." He paused, his forearms trembling. "We are losing this war." David watched as the proud chancellor, who had led the vote to ban humanity 6 months ago, struggled to maintain composure. "The techniques we have perfected over millennia are ineffective. Our precision weapons cannot stop an enemy that willingly sacrifices thousands of ships to destroy one of ours. Our negotiation protocols are useless against an enemy that refuses all communication. Our rules of engagement become weaknesses when facing an enemy that exploits every restriction we place on ourselves." The broadcast ended. David's crew sat in stunned silence. Finally, Yuki spoke quietly. "Sir, what do we do?" "We wait," David replied. "We were told our help was not wanted. Until that changes, we respect their decision. But people are dying," Yuki protested. "Millions of them." David met her eyes. "And that is a tragedy. But we cannot force our assistance on those who have explicitly rejected it. The galaxy made its choice. Now it must live with the consequences." The emergency session. 3 days later, Ambassador Elena Torres received an urgent communication. The Galactic Assembly was calling an emergency session, and human presence was specifically requested. Elena and Marcus made the journey to the Assembly world, traveling through systems that showed signs of recent battle. Debris fields floated where stations had once operated. Damaged ships limped along trade routes that should have been secure. The assembly hall was transformed. Where celebration had once filled the chamber, now there was only fear and desperation. Many seats sat empty, their occupants dead or unable to travel through the war-torn space. Chancellor Varenthal looked like he had aged years in just months. His bioluminescence flickered weakly as he called the session to order. "We face extinction," he said bluntly. "The Shade Collective has destroyed 40% of our combined military forces. They adapt to every strategy we employ. They learn from every battle. They exploit every principle of civilized warfare we hold dear." He looked directly at Elena. "We were wrong. Humanity tried to warn us, and we did not listen." A Kresh elder stood, her mandibles clicking with grief. "We accused humans of barbarism. We condemned their brutal methods. We believed our enlightened approach was superior." She gestured at the half-empty chamber. "This is the price of our arrogance." Elena rose slowly, the eyes of the assembly fixed on her with hope, shame, and desperate need. "Before we discuss any restoration of human involvement," she said carefully, "I believe the assembly needs to understand what they are truly asking for." She pulled out a data chip. "With your permission, Chancellor, I would like to show you something." Varenthal nodded. The screens throughout the chamber activated. The footage, these are archived records of human military operations, Elena explained. "Not the edited versions you saw before. The complete footage with full context." She triggered the first file. "This is from the Kelter Station incident." The screen showed the pirate-held station from multiple angles. Elena narrated what the assembly was seeing. Human forces observed the situation for 6 hours after being given authorization to act. They identified that the raiders had rigged the entire station with explosives. The raiders were killing hostages on a schedule, one every hour, to pressure negotiations. Asterisk, the footage showed Captain Sarah Rodriguez and her team moving through the station. Their movements were fast, aggressive, and utterly without mercy toward the armed raiders. But Elena highlighted something else. "Watch what happens here." As the human forces advanced, they simultaneously disabled the explosive devices. They created exit routes for civilians. They established safe zones. Yes, 3 habitat rings were destroyed, but those were the rings already rigged to explode. The humans destroyed them in controlled detonations that prevented a catastrophic chain reaction that would have killed everyone on the station. The chamber was silent as the footage continued. Rodriguez and her team moved with brutal efficiency, but the rescued hostages told a different story in their statements. One crushed civilian appeared on screen. "The human soldiers were terrifying to watch, but they shielded us with their own bodies. They took wounds meant for us. When it was over, they stayed to help with medical care and trauma counseling." Elena switched to another file. This is from the Battle of Frontier's Edge. The Torvan commander accused human forces of causing starvation by cutting supply lines. The screen showed the Marauder fleet, a massive armada that had been terrorizing the frontier for months. Elena highlighted the tactical analysis. The Marauder fleet had mobile supply bases protected by civilian hostages. Direct assault would have killed thousands of innocent people. Human forces identified alternative supply routes the Marauders were not protecting. By cutting those specific lines, they forced the Marauders to surrender within days, without a single civilian casualty. More footage followed. Battle after battle, incident after incident. Each time, what had appeared to be brutal human tactics revealed themselves to be carefully calculated decisions, designed to save the maximum number of lives. The humans did not follow the aliens' rules of civilized warfare, but their methods achieved what the rules could not. They ended threats quickly, decisively, and with fewer total casualties than prolonged, civilized conflicts would have caused. A Luminar elder chimed softly. "We judged you without understanding. We saw only the surface, not the reasoning beneath." Elena switched to the final piece of footage. This is from 2 years before humanity joined the galactic community. A human colony world called New Jakarta was attacked by an alien species you have never encountered. We call them the Reavers. The screen showed nightmare creatures, beings that seemed to exist only to destroy. They used no technology, only biological weapons and overwhelming numbers. The footage showed human colonists fighting desperately against the horde. This attack lasted 11 days, Elena said quietly. 60,000 colonists faced an enemy that could not be negotiated with, could not be reasoned with, and would not stop until everything was dead. The assembly watched in horror as human defenders used tactics that seemed shocking. Scorched earth strategies, tactical nuclear weapons, biological countermeasures. We threw everything we had at them, Elena explained. We abandoned every principle of proportional response. We became, by your standards, barbaric. The footage showed the final stand, where 300 remaining human defenders held a bunker against thousands of Reavers. And yet, a Torvan observer said softly, "You survived." "Barely," Elena replied. That colony taught humanity a lesson that we have never forgotten. Sometimes survival requires methods that civilized societies find horrifying. Sometimes the enemy does not care about your principles, your rules, or your desire for minimal casualties. Sometimes the only choice is between barbarism and extinction. The request Chancellor Varenthal stood, his forearms spread in a gesture of supplication. "Ambassador Torres, on behalf of the Galactic Assembly, I formally request the restoration of human participation in our military operations. We need your expertise. We need your methods. We need humanity's help to survive." Alana looked at Marcus, then back at the desperate faces filling the chamber. "Before we agree, Earth has conditions. The Assembly will publicly acknowledge that human tactics, while different from your traditions, are not barbaric. They are effective responses to threats you have not previously encountered." "Agreed," Varenthal said immediately. "Second," Elena continued, "when human forces are deployed, they will operate under human command structures. We will coordinate with your forces, but we will not be bound by rules of engagement that prevent us from doing our jobs effectively." The Chancellor hesitated, then nodded. "Agreed. Third, and most important," Elena's voice hardened. "The galaxy needs to understand that there are different types of warfare. Against rational enemies who honor life and follow predictable patterns, your methods are excellent. Against enemies like the Shade Collective or worse, humanity's methods may seem brutal, but they are necessary. We do not fight the way we do because we enjoy violence. We fight this way because we have learned at terrible cost that sometimes it is the only way to protect innocent lives." The Assembly was silent. Then, one by one, delegates stood in agreement. The Kresh elder clicked her mandibles. "We understand now. We were not wrong to value life and seek peaceful solutions. But we were wrong to condemn those who know how to fight when peace is impossible." A Luminar representative chimed in harmony. "We accused you of being uncivilized. In truth, you are differently civilized. You carry knowledge that we had the luxury of forgetting. We need that knowledge now." Elena transmitted her response to Earth Command. The message was brief. "They understand now. Requesting immediate deployment of all available forces. Authorization to engage the Shade Collective without restrictions." Within hours, the response came back. "Earth Defense Force deploying. Admiral Okonkwo commanding. Carrier groups Valkyrie, Ronin, and Spartan en route. Ada 72 hours. Orders. End this threat by whatever means necessary." Elena looked at the Assembly, at the hope beginning to replace despair on their faces. "Humanity will help you," she said. "But understand this. When our forces arrive, you will see warfare that shocks you. You will see tactics that disturb you. You will witness methods that challenge everything you believe about civilized behavior." She paused. "But when this is over, when the Shade Collective is defeated, and your worlds are safe again, remember this moment. Remember that sometimes those who fight in darkness do so to preserve the light. The chamber erupted not in celebration this time, but in somber determination. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Civilization was precious and worth fighting for. But sometimes, to preserve civilization, you needed warriors who remembered how to fight like the galaxy's ancestors had, before the luxury of rules and restrictions. Humanity had never forgotten those lessons. Now they would teach the galaxy why that memory, terrible as it was, remained necessary. The Shade Collective had awoken something the galaxy thought it had evolved beyond. They had awoken humanity's capacity for total war. And they were about to learn why Earth had spent millennia perfecting the art of survival against impossible odds. The End Asterisk